We are here once again in the digital speakeasy. I'm with my great friends, Mr. Lyle Wheeler and Mr. Aaron Vickers, and we're taking an opportunity, I guess, to relive a little bit of a journey that we took. It was right around this time last year, right, guys?
Yeah.
Was it June?
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
May or June.
Yeah.
Early June, I think.
9th of June. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously, pre COVID-19, when we all had the freedom to travel around. And so those that don't know me, my name is James Darcy. I'm a brand ambassador here with Edrington Americas. And this space we really set up because we wanted to provide a service to our trade partners who are obviously having a real tough time of it during all of these closures and then reopenings. But we also really wanted to find a way to kind of all come together on something great. And so if you're not familiar, hopefully you're in Facebook already. You should be at the Digital Speakeasy page. Do go ahead and look at some of the posts, look at what we're doing with the World Central Kitchen. And the company I work for, Edrington, we are double matching any donations that we can make. And we're really looking to raise 50,000, which will become 150,000. So for every dollar or for every pound, if you're in the UK, that goes to this organization, my company will double match that. I did have the opportunity last year, lucky me. I was down in the Bahamas just after the hurricane had come through. And we had the opportunity, myself, my wife, Sean, my colleague Marcus and his wife, Amy, had the opportunity to go and help out with the World Central Kitchen. And what they do is they will go to places that have been hit by a disaster, and they will set up shop, bring in chefs, get all of the food delivered and things like that. And they'll basically make and prepare meals en masse and get them out to people in need. It's a really great organization, a really great charity. And it's close to home for us here down in DC, just because Jose Andres, who is the celebrity chef behind this, a lot of his restaurants, a lot of his work is based here and around DC, and we see a lot of the good work he does every day. So check us out. It's on the World Central Kitchen, but if you look at it through the Digital Speakeasy Facebook page, that's where you'll be able to find the link to Double Match. But today we're going on this trip to Orkney at a time when I know that they are keen to not have people visiting. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. We're going to reminisce a little bit about that. We're going to take a quick tour of the Highland Park distillery. You can see all of us. I'm in my bedroom. Lyle, where are you?
I'm in my kitchen.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm also joining him just down the road, but in my kitchen.
I would be in my kitchen, but it's too small for me to be in and do this from. So I'm not in my kitchen.
I mean, my kitchen's huge, so that's why I'm in it. Obviously, it's not because I'm in central London, but yeah, there we go.
And so really
bring a tiny cabinet.
Before we jump in, so Lyle and I, we've known each other. So it's 2020 now. We've known each other since 2006.
2006, yeah.
2006.
15 years.
That's right. We all trained together at Laban as dancers or dancers of sorts. Aaron, you certainly have continued. I would say that you did go on to become a dancer. Aaron, what are you doing at the moment, Aaron? Where have you been most of the time recently? Where are you heading back to in the near future, possibly? What are you doing? What's going on?
So I am slightly moving away from performing so much. Touring and traveling has been an amazing experience for me. One I've very much enjoyed and got the wonderful opportunity to embrace so many different cultures from so many different parts of the world, which has been truly incredible. And now all of those great inspirational teachers that I've met along the way that haven't necessarily been dance focused, but have been movement focused and training focused, and anatomy and body focused. All of those people that I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to study alongside or chat to in passing. My goal now is to try and hone all of their knowledge and all of my continued research to be able to pass that on in something that I'm very passionate about, which is getting everybody moving, everybody learning about their bodies, as well as the elite athletes that I love to work with, and refining their skills away from their sports. I spent most of my time during lockdown in sunny London, which actually has been sunny for the majority of lockdown. Actually, I'm really enjoyed it. It's been lovely.
And what's your social and where can people find you?
You can find what I do and what I get up to over on Instagram at Connect Build Play. And then my website, which is www.connectbuildplay.com, where you can check out my theories and my views on training and keeping the body healthy.
Awesome. Wonderful. And handing over to Lyle. Lyle, who are you? Where are you? We know you're in your kitchen. We know you're in London. What do you do?
So I moved away from the dancing world. I am now a full-time butcher manager over at Flock and Herd Butchery in Peckham. I deal with day-to-day basis of running a wholesale business and a shop front. I am collaborating with James at the moment on a weekly basis on Butcher and Barrel, and we're alternating on our platforms, which my platform is at Southeast Butcher. James is at Whiskey Darcy, obviously, as you guys will probably know. Yeah,
Lord knows who's going to see this. So, like, I'll say who I am as well. But thanks for saying that.
Yeah, so I moved away from the dance world just because I loved it as a passion, and working within that industry, you get a lot of knockbacks all the time, and it became a labour of love for me, if I'm completely honest. And I felt like my career was going down the drain. I wasn't being happy in that career. I come from a hunting background. My family are from the countryside. So I've always dealt with meat and working in the food industry. So it kind of became a hand-in-hand partnership of moving over into the butchery world. So yeah, it's a kind of an organic growth, but very much not the organic growth of what a ballet dancer should be. It's that's where I'm at right now.
Just because I like you saying it, and Aaron and I certainly love it. What was your email address again?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Sorry for swearing, but purecountrysidemuscles@hotmail.com. Well, I like to say I've got the muscles to back it up, so yeah, there we go.
And that's how for the rest of this, Lyle did the rest of this topless whilst flexing.
Yeah.
And James Darcy, I'm a brand ambassador for Edrington here in the States, down in DC and Maryland. Highland Park is my jam. And the wonderful thing about doing this with you guys and going on this trip with you guys is that, a lot of my initial first whiskey journeys was really with the two of you, working through, going on a journey from whether it was Scotch. I think the first time I had a high proof bourbon was with you guys in a Wetherspoons, and it was not my favorite thing in the world. I feel very differently about that brand. I won't say who it was, but I feel very different about the brand now. I think they do great stuff. And but yeah, just a lot of those like first times, like sitting on a couch. Everyone should know I spent a good 2 to 3 years living rent-free couch surfing on these guys.
Wouldn't have it any other way, dude.
Couches. I've got a lot of forward paying to do for that. Which I'm sure we can find ways to make that happen in the future. But yeah, so, now
this is why we come on these trips with you now.
Right. And there will be more in the future. We will make sure that there are opportunities to do these things in the future. But yeah, without further ado, I thought that we'd just kind of jump right into taking a bit of a trip. I've got some different images and things prepared. You guys have got things as well. I'm going to share my screen. I hope it doesn't dominate the space too much. But really, we're going to take everyone to this journey over to Orkney that you've probably not been there. Most people haven't been there. And I figured that we'd just go and reminisce a little bit and talk a bit about the distillery, about Orkney and what we thought and felt about it. You guys have pictures. I've got pictures.
Yeah.
I'll throw my screen up. I'll take it down, and we'll just work our way through. Sound good?
Well, nice. Just to interject on what you said about Orkney not welcoming people at the moment, they are, just because of COVID, like they are the most welcoming people that I've ever come across, if I'm honest with you.
Right.
Like,
right.
They just want to share what they're doing over there with everybody. And yeah.
That's a really great call out. Yes. Sorry. Right now, if you're going to go, be super mindful, keep a distance. They have, limited, they have a great health system and things like that, but it's limited in its scope, can only handle so much. Let's see here. Highland Park tour, here we go. So, as we do kick off, I do want to kind of like paint the scene a little bit. Let's go from here. So first thing, just to give people an idea of like what Orkney is and where it is, right? And I don't know if you guys knew this as well, but I thought it was a handy little slide. You know, it's really an archipelago, right? It's at this intersection of the North Sea and then also the Atlantic. And this part, have I got a mouse on here? Oh, there's my mouse. This part down here, over here, is it? I think it's over here. Is the Scapa Flow. This is that place that like loads of divers like to go, right? Because there's all of the, I think, like sunken U-boats and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. But it's an archipelago, so it's like 70 islands. There's only like 17 are inhabited. 21,000 people live there. I think that the land, what is it? The land our friend, the land our home, the sea our friend, I think is like the motto of Orkney. And up until 1472, they were ruled by the Vikings straight up. So Aaron's been doing a lot of work over in Sweden these years. I don't think it was Sweden. I know it's like brand ambassador right here. I think that it was more Denmark and Norway, and then Denmark was the ruler up until 1472. So all things considered, we had a wonderful tour guide called James, and he was saying like, we've not really been back to Scotland that long, right? It's like 500 years.
We also forget how close it is up to Scandinavia, and
right.
How literally just sideways across from the middle of Norway almost. It's not even the south of Norway or the south of Scandinavia. It's that high up and directly across, and not by far from. Yeah,
it's closer to Bergen than it is to London. Right?
Yeah,
it's the Vikings were interesting folk. I know that we unfortunately nowadays I think we think of some of like the less nice things about the Vikings, in the age that we live in, but there were loads of things that they were like, I mean, they made it across to the States or like Canada on a wooden boat way before other people made it. Like Leif Erikson made it over way before other people did. It's like just an incredible culture and people. But we're really talking here. So we actually started our journey, and if you guys have pictures, I actually think I've missed it. I think you might have one to throw up on the screen. We actually met in Speyside, right? Where did you guys fly into?
We flew into Inverness.
That's right. So, right, you guys flew into Inverness. I picked you up, and then we kind of drove through the Cairngorms in the middle of the night, thinking, "Oh, we'll go wild camping. It's Scotland. We can go wherever we want."
We had a romantic idea of finding an empty field with the views that went on for days, and in reality, we drove for an hour and a half. Only saw trees, nowhere safe to camp but a road. And then we saw one sign for a campsite and thought, well, we'll ditch this idea of being Vikings for the first night.
Yeah. Well, I think you've kind of nailed it on the head there. I think we ditched the idea of being Vikings and just going wherever we want. I think we took on the whole English disposure of like, oh, are we allowed to camp here? Or are we not allowed to camp here? Like, I think the rule is you can camp wherever you want.
Area. Is that fence make it enclosed, and will the farmer come out?
Right, exactly. We were overthinking the situation a lot, I think.
I tell you though, we'll get back to that, but the overthinking served us no end, because I remember when we got to Orkney, I was like, let's stop here, and Aaron was like, no, not satisfied, no, but kept going, and I was getting peed off at the back, and then Aaron because Aaron pushed on, we found the best place to camp.
Yeah, we'll get to that bit a little bit later on.
Yeah.
You'd have had us camp in that little car park.
Had all the amenities. I don't know what's wrong with you. Yeah.
just so people know, he wasn't saying little like, oh, it was really little. It was a little car park. He means like, no, the store little, the grocery store, the supermarket little. Yeah, that's funny. But we ended up finding a campsite, right? We went to a campsite so that we knew that we were allowed. We weren't going to get in trouble. I think we paid in the morning.
We did pay in the morning.
We did pay. We considered not paying, but we did pay in the morning.
Yeah. We got to the back, the entrance and exit, and we were like, we probably should pay for this. Yeah.
Right, that's right. So we did what was the right thing. Oh, and look, I have managed to find some images here, so I'll throw these up.
More through the fear that we might have to go back to this campsite at some point. So,
and we're also very good people. So
yeah, and that.
Sure, why not? So actually, I think this is actually a pretty good representation. I'm not sure what this is going to look like. There we go.
No,
so this was me when I got to Nairn. This is I think from here I went to go and get the because I'd have been on a company trip, right? So I picked up the car, and then we ended up in a Tesco's, I guess, in the middle of the night. Bought some food, bought a frying
some
pan.
lawn sausage.
Lawn sausage, yeah, lawn sausage. a lot of kettle chips apparently, some Buxton water, and then this was us. I have that little stove that you pour the methylated spirit into and light.
Yeah.
And we were cooking on that little frying pan. So that's you making us some eggs in the middle of the night, I guess.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Because why not? Our cholesterol levels did not do well. And no offense to Scotland, but I don't think your cholesterol levels are doing great when you're in Scotland anyway, right? Just because it's good stuff that's got like not great cholesterol levels. So
I think there's also, as visitors, you eat everything you imagine the Scots to eat that they probably don't eat every day. But when you're there for 4 days, you just pile on that for 4 days.
Yeah. So this is kind of where it's there it is. But look at that, like that little thing. I mean, look at it. It's sizzling away in there.
Nice.
Love me some live photos. Right. So we
this was the night that actually we did show our camping, our little camping knowledge, shall we say, because we quickly realized the importance of a ground mat that night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one thing we didn't have because we thought we'd survive without one, and that was the first thing we bought the following morning.
That's right.
We realized,
the
distance between the ground and your sleeping bag is quite important.
Yes, not lying directly on it was pretty important for the temperature, and it wasn't like it was frigid, but it was cold enough, and it was it was a 4-person tent. 3 people was quite enough. Like we didn't need to, we didn't want any bigger, that's for sure, but we definitely didn't want it any smaller. And I forgot, we did actually start. We did swing by the Macallan, right?
Was that Macallan? Yeah.
Yeah, we swung by the Macallan, and it's good to point out, like, wow, beautiful, incredible, amazing, opposite, right?
The opposite. I was gonna say it's the absolute opposite of what we went on to. And
this is a photo, obviously, from my camera on my phone. I have an iPhone 8. I don't have a 10 or an 11. That's what it looks like when you're,
Yeah.
But it just sort of highlights the neither's better or worse. But highlights the differences in, where these two particular brands.
Well, that's very idyllic.
Yeah, sorry, you were saying, Aaron, where these different brands...
Where these different brands choose to, sort of send their interest going forwards in the intricacies of modern science, or the
age-old, historic...
tradition works for us, and how can we build on tradition rather... Tomato, depending on... They both make great whiskies, so...
Yeah, I was going to use a simile of Marmite. Like, you either love it or you hate it. Like,
yeah.
And that's before we start talking about Marmite and Vegemite and Aussiemite. And anyway, moving on. It's funny, Lyle and I, we were talking about this the other day about remembering how brown the water was, like rich the water was, and like you can see it right there, right? In front of the rocks. So swing by the Glenrothes, proud owner of three staves that I don't think I'm supposed to make public knowledge, but oops. Right, so then
just to highlight that, we put 2 pictures on.
Right. But this was really us. So our plan for this trip, right, was to meet, quickly hit up the other distilleries, from the Edgerton side, and just so people know, we did go to two other distilleries, or one. Did we just hit one on the way back down?
We just hit Glenmorangie on the way back down.
I think we just hit Glenmorangie on the way back down, just to because we wanted to go in and see what their operations were like. But we basically had like 3 days, I think it was. 1 full day of travel, 1 day to be on Orkney. Yeah, right. We arrived on Orkney to sleep on Orkney and then get back from Orkney. And then we had 1 full day of travel, and we tried to like pack things in, and we had to work out the logistics. But we basically were starting way down on the map right at Inverness, drove through the Cairngorms, went into Speyside, hit up the Macallan and Glenrothes, and then we just basically hammered it up to John O'Groats. For anybody that doesn't know, John O'Groats and Land's End are like the 2 polar opposites of the UK. A lot of people like to cycle this. That would be a cool trip as well. We should talk about this. We should.
I mean, these guys that clearly laid their bikes down had looked like they'd been They definitely done that trip. We struggled cycling around the small island of Orkney, James. I don't want to bring up that hill we cycled over.
I struggled.
Yourselves, guys. I was smashing that hill.
I struggled cycling about this one morning. And my excuse
to the job and throw your bike on the floor like that.
Someone else carry this effing tent.
My excuse is that I had the roll mats in my backpack sticking sideways, which don't weigh anything, but obviously the wind drag was bad. I definitely had the best bike out of the three of us, but I complained about it because I had the tent on the back that was heavy. Yeah, we'll get to that. Anyway, different conversation. So we basically headed right up to here, and there you are, Orkney, 8 miles away. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off because I think I've got these. This is me messaging my wife Sean saying like, "Hey, hon, this is where we are." In the middle of nowhere, in the ocean. I don't know if it's the Atlantic or probably the North Sea there, I guess.
Yeah, the North Sea there.
Over.
Oh, look at that little selfie you sent over as well.
Little selfie with long. Anyway, and then look at Lyle's cheeky face. Oh, fucking herd. Nice bit of branding there. That's the butcher shop.
Wow.
And then go back. Okay.
You're jumping. You're jumping here.
I'm jumping. So I'll stop sharing and squeezing over here. And so so we basically, our plan was drive. We rented a car. We drove up to here. We got to John O'Groats, and we jumped in to a ferry, and this ferry took us across the way. Everyone that I've spoken to has said like, "Oh, that ferry's so treacherous." I'm like, not when we went, right?
We definitely picked the. I mean, if you remember, we all packed for torrential rain, winds, every weather that we didn't get really when we were over there. I think we were there for the 3 smoothest, most bright, sunny days Orkney have maybe ever had. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could have been the warmest day they've recorded, that day that we cycled.
I mean, this is what we were wearing for cycling. And I know we had to take off our jackets and just wear our t-shirts. And so many people tell me how the joke is it doesn't rain down in Orkney. It doesn't rain sideways. It rains upwards because it's so heavy and so windy. But we, nonetheless, we did make it over to the ferry. This is Aaron again, looking full Scandian Viking, even wearing nudie jeans, keeping it Swedish. And then we're off on a boat, and kind of this is what you see when you turn around is the end of the mainland of Scotland, which if you go to Orkney, do know that they refer to the main island that we went to as the mainland. So don't make that rookie mistake, right? On the mainland, they're like, this is the mainland. You mean Scotland, or do you mean, whatever. Yeah.
Because they definitely fight for independence if they could.
I bet. So I guess that was a lot more abrupt than I thought, but we made it onto the land. Aaron, do you want to take us through like what happened? What did we do when we got there?
Got to mainland. We got on a bus, didn't we? We had to get a bus to drive through from the ferry port to the town centre, where actually that coach ride was beautiful in itself, driving around all the windy roads.
We got on about here, right? And then drive through and over the bridges.
Yeah, you cross the bridges that go onto the mainland of the Orkney Islands. And even that, driving across some of those bridges, seeing the beaches and the just the vast coastline.
Right. And there's all of those like World War II, like concrete cast cement things there, right?
And even, having spent some time living in Scandinavia, the coastline is very Nordic. It's that icy cold, deep blue sea, and just the vast, bright, lengthy coastlines, which you if you've been over there, you'll know are quite iconic. Through the windy roads into the mainland, and off the bus we hopped. We found our bikes, which were chained up by a very trusty guy. who'd never met us. I don't think we'd paid a deposit. We phoned up, asked for some bikes, and he said they'll be left outside the shop for you, chained up, gave us the code. So just to repeat what Lyle said earlier, they are some of the most friendly, trusting people that we've ever come across. And long may that.
You do live in central London, so
Well,
low bar.
My bike stays chained up outside for somebody to take one day too, I suppose.
Well, you say I bring my bike in every night and I lock it onto my thing inside of a lock shed just to make sure that I keep a hold of it.
Yeah. So long may that continue. Anyone that visits, keep it a safe and trusting place. We picked up our bikes. We went and got some supplies, and then off we hopped on our bikes to cycle out. We followed the main road. We flipped a coin, left or right. We ended up going, I can't remember whether it was left or right, but out of the city one way, and just kept cycling. It didn't rain. It got warmer as we cycled. I think we sort of thought that once it started raining, we would pick up camp somewhere, but the weather stayed away. We cycled on. Coastline just went further and further and further. Every now and again, every 5 minutes, I'd get a shout from somebody behind me. What about there? What about here? What if we walk over there? But we kept going, and eventually we found a bunch of trees, didn't we? Orkney is not famous for trees. There aren't really any on the island because of the wind.
There were low trees, like almost like a really, really big gorse bush.
Yeah. And it was probably the only ones we saw actually on the island. I don't really remember seeing much high shrubbery, shall we say. And it looked like the perfect place to pitch the tent. Behind those trees, there was a little picnic bench. So that sort of said that people had been there before. I think Lyle's just holding up a little picture. If you say something, Lyle, I think it was.
That doesn't look inviting. I don't know what does.
What, a reflection on a screen? Yeah, if that doesn't look inviting, I don't know what does.
So we pitched the tent up. We'd got a few beers. That's Lyle in the stream, trying to put our beers in the stream to cool them down. So we use natural refrigeration. I'm definitely more of a director in these roles, as seen from photos.
Health and safety instructor, like you haven't even taken your helmet off yet. So.
Exactly, man. So we pitched our tent, and we set up the barbecue, and we saw the night in with a couple of beers and something that we always do when we're together, and sit there and put the world to rights until the sun goes down. The catch being in Orkney, the sun doesn't go down until extremely late. I think the picture that Lyle showed you was at 11 p.m. in the evening. So it's daylight for a huge amount of the time that you're over there during the summer, just like it is in those Nordic countries when you get to that summer daylight saving.
Yeah.
James, you have a photo of how light it is at that time.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up now. Let's see. Okay, it says I'm broadcasting. There we go. So let's, and I've actually got a nice little video of this. So here we go. Hopefully you'll see. This is
9 o'clock at night.
Right, 9 o'clock at night. So this is the patch that we found, and like, yes, there was a little like picnic table, which was great, but I think that the main reason that we chose this spot, I'll put it through again. Actually, here we go. Let's do it this way. Maybe it will rotate my screen as well. If I play it again, we'll hopefully be able to see why. I'll try and pause it. So you can see there's the picnic bench. There's our bikes. And then you can see that's basically where we pitched the tent, right in those wildflowers just behind Lyle. Because again, like that's, and you can see the tree. It's not like we're talking about an oak or a big tree. We're talking about kind of like a bit of a coastal scrub tree on the edge. Because everything else, when you continue to look around, is just like,
little river, bridge.
Yeah, look at the rest of the landscape. It's just
barren.
Just because of the harshness of the winds and stuff, that the landscape's just evolved to not have those things there.
I think that they say that there were trees once upon a time, but that was like before the last ice age. So, that was a while ago.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, that's 9:20 at night.
Right.
And that could be
The view of the Peaty Hills behind you.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just us. Oh dear, it's just us. You know, we don't have anywhere else to be. Go away. I know. Yeah, just what a beautiful, beautiful place. What a big, big sky. Just, it was great, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take me back. Oh, Tom Johnson's still on. Don't worry, we were representing Noble Oak as well when we were out there. Yeah, so we would. Yeah, this is.
Here we go. So this one was 11 o'clock at night. So
right there you are.
Yeah.
Same on my screen. 11:22. Like nuts. 11:22. Look at it. 11:22. And I guess this is the morning. So I'll stop sharing here.
well, who doesn't want to wake up to breakfast
Yes.
with a view
Yes. Absolutely.
over the hills?
No kidding. And actually, I think I'll keep us in here whilst I'm doing it, just because it looks like there are some good images in here. So once again, managed to get that bacon sizzling in the morning. Thank you, Lyle. Yeah, not the best cholesterol.
That's breakfast of champions, man. I don't know what's wrong with you.
But yeah, this was, then we were off.
Yeah.
You know? We just headed off, and we knew that we wanted to go down and see. I can't remember what they're called. Hopefully, this might say something. We weren't going to Stromness. That's way further away. But we basically just started going, and you can really get an idea of what the Orcadian landscape is. It's I think I might put in a cheeky selfie here. Oh, no. See, that's what was weighing me down, guys. See, look at that foam roller.
That's really weighing you down.
There you guys are. Yeah, so this
I had a foam mat too.
Oh, I had one. You didn't have one. Where's yours?
Well, I've got a pannier and a big bag as well. So
you got a streamlined pannier on the side of your bike. I was doing on those bikes, right? This is the thing, Tom, right? The wind we didn't have bad wind, right, guys?
No. Well, you may have a bad wind, but
yeah, well, maybe with all the beans we were eating, sure, but no, we really didn't have bad wind. It was ridiculous. We just had this beautiful. I mean, look at it.
It was stunning. Like you said, we over prepared for the weather, and yeah, we could have just been in t-shirts and shorts the whole weekend.
And I know the Orcadians say this. They say there's no such thing as bad weather. There's just the wrong clothes. And this is the kind of thing where it is like,
yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess that.
Yeah.
And Tom said in this, and it's exactly true. Presumably, the opposite side of the year is the opposite. And it's true. Like, we were here when there was like 4 hours of twilight, as opposed to being at the time of year when it's like 4 hours of rough daylight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is us tooling around. I'm sure that there's probably a selfie video, but look at that. I mean,
stunning. Look at that.
Wow. Now this was on the way down. We thought life couldn't get any better right now. Little did we know what was waiting for us at the bottom, hey James?
Yeah, it's true. That was me. That was all me. I was cursing life. Tom, I didn't care about. There I am having a great time, living my best life, going downhill. Once that changed to uphill, nah, it was not my favorite. But just, and then of course at the end of any bike ride, what else do you want? You want to get to the pub and have a good pint, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But when we were climbing that hill, we did go through quite a few little peat fields as well, though, right? Like, and that was.
Yeah, well, we did we swung past Hobbister Moor, right? Which is the sole peat source for Highland Park. We're the only people pulling from there.
Exactly.
We were going through we were going through June. So I mean, it's the same time that they're typically harvesting. We didn't see anything going on, but nonetheless, it was really something. So I'll skip us on a little bit, but we did make it back. We did get a pint, which was much needed and appreciated by that point. And then things have of course taken a long time to click through. There we go. So once we left our campsite, one thing that we skipped there was that we did make it through to seeing some of these like Neolithic sites, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Orkney has, so on the right is Magnus Cathedral, which is beautiful. On on the left, I can't remember what that was. Was it the thingy of Brodgar?
Hold on.
I feel like it was like the rock of Brodgar, or
The Standing Stones of Stoness.
Oh, is that what we saw?
Like the Odin stone that had been knocked down because it was in the way of a farmer or something.
Crazy. But all of these amazing like Neolithic places, and we didn't get to see it because we didn't
These
have time.
stones predate Stonehenge, don't they?
Right.
Yeah.
If we had the time, or if I didn't have to carry a tent and my bike was faster, we could have gone all the way to the other side of the island, which is reason to go back. And see the actual like villages. I mean, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site because there's just old stuff, old stuff. I'm going to
take part of the responsibility as well. I'm not the most early bird. Let's start cycling at 6 a.m. type guy. It's important to have that first coffee of the day.
Well, let's not start those arguments again, Aaron. All right. So
enjoyment.
We were clearly already pretty invested in drinking beers at 11:20 at night because it was still daytime, frankly. So I don't think 6 o'clock was on the cards. I'm the only one of us who is also a father. If I don't have to get up at 6 o'clock for once in my life, I'm not getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning for once. But yeah, we made it down. Highland Park is a brand new store. That's the side of it. But really, that picture of the two of you on the left, that was just post pub. It looks like she's really looking at you guys like, you don't live here.
I know, right? And what gave it away? I have no idea. So.
They're really nice people. They're looking at us like there's something wrong.
Maybe they thought we were here to. Do you remember that game? The game that they were talking about, the island. What's the name of it? Huh?
The bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With maybe they thought we turned up to play that
at a complete wrong time of the year.
Yeah.
So we're Doonies, right? So the island's split between the Uppies and the Doonies. The Uppies, typically the farmers. The Doonies were the fisher people. Nowadays, I mean, we're English, so we're neither of them. We're not Orcadian, so let's get that straight. But
I mean, they'd have both sides would have hunted us down.
If you arrive by sea, you're typically considered a Doonie. If you arrive by air, you're considered an Uppie. And on Christmas Day, New Year's Day, there's this game. It's like they have this big like leather ball that's pretty hard, and it's basically like capture the flag, right?
Yeah,
where it's capture the flag across the island.
Some could say it's evolved into the NFL.
The NFL without padding or rules.
Yeah.
Kind of no rules. I think it looks like a massive rugby scrum, but all the, actually it's not funny. Anyway, like at the moment, if you go to DC, huge amounts of DC is just boarded up because the Black Lives Matter movement, just protecting buildings. But in Orkney, twice a year, they're going to board up all their windows because the bar's being flayed and they can't afford to have people coming through the windows, which happens. And our tour guide on that, on the coach on the way back, was saying how they used to have the women's game, but they had to stop it because they were like finding hair in the streets for week after, and it was like getting too vicious. I'm not sure if he was joking or if he was real, but whew, it was something. It was something. All right. So we camped, we cycled, we made it around the island, and then we did make it to the distillery, which of course was the reason we went to Orkney. But there's, we love Highland Park. I work for Highland Park. This is obvious, but there's so much more to see at Orkney than Highland Park. But if you're gonna go, you've also got to see Highland Park. I mean, so I thought it'd be fun for us to go through, because I don't think you guys have seen these pictures, and basically just go on a little tour together.
Yeah, let's do it.
What we saw. I use this picture because I actually edited this from something that I actually show to people, and I figured you guys might not want me showing pictures of you doing this in front of the in front of the gates of the Highland Park.
I've got one of those if people want to see it. But,
this does just highlight the like you were saying earlier, the difference between the very curving, architecturally what's the word I'm looking for? Architecturally,
the current distillery is brand new.
Yeah,
it's been purposefully built to like hide into the landscape, be mindful of nature in a new way. We all know this. Let's not talk about it. The Macallan operation is vastly greater than the Highland Park operation, and so I think the considerations that you make for the land around you pays sevenfold compared to even considerations, but you're right. It's a new piece of architecture, like sleek, beautiful, like wonderfully designed. This is a farmhouse, you know?
Yeah.
Which has an amazing amount of beauty just within itself.
Yeah. And so, you know, established 1798. Really, honestly, there's dispute about this. You know, Magnus Jönsson was an illegal distiller at this site. Just to, you know, we talked about this before. It's called Highland Park. We're not in the Highlands. We're on the island of Orkney, right? And so he had a bothy, like a cottage based here. And so this is how we start distilling. And the second you walk through this picture on the right, I don't know if you guys remember the still room. This is actually at the back of the still room. These are the condensers that are cooling the liquid after it's been distilled. You don't know this because you walk in, it's like, oh, hello, commercial, industrial processes, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, just beautiful old building. This ventilator is called a Charles Doig ventilator. He's designed many of these across Scotland, super popular for distilleries. And then these years on the side. Did I ask you guys if you knew what these years were? I feel like I was trying to figure this out recently, and I reached out to a few people. I can't remember if I asked you guys, but I actually have the answer now.
Sure. Is it not just the extensions of where different parts are added to it, right? Or
The buildings.
So it's the 1798 is when we were founded. 1907 is the first kiln. You know, there's those two kilns. We had our tour guide, James, right, and he was joking, saying that he's almost as old as the kilns. 1907 is kiln 1, 1924 is kiln 2. So, 96 years old is one of the kilns using to smoke the peat. And then the other one, I don't want to do mathematics, 13 minus 113 years old. The other kiln that we've been using to put peat on and lay fires in, 130, it's just crazy. It's incredible. And yeah, this is like, and then right there it is. There's the new kiln, the 96-year-old kiln, the new one.
brand new, yeah. Lovely.
Brand new, height of technology.
Yeah.
But yeah, you walk in, it's just like, again, and you mentioned this, like, you know, like you described like the difference between, or Aaron, like you've both been to the Macallan, you've walked around inside of it, just how different it is walking around.
Yeah.
Highland Park.
Yeah. I mean, like, look at that pile of, is that peat there on the right hand side of that? Looks like a photo.
It's coke.
Yeah, I mean, like that, you wouldn't see that at Macallan, like at all. It's be all tidied away, or if they even use that, like, you know, like, that's the one thing I love about Highland Park. It is what it is. It is what you expect an old distillery to be. Right?
I think the biggest thing is that you walking into either, Highland Park becomes a working distillery that you walk into. You very much see it working, so you have this almost romantic relationship with it when you leave. You walk into Macallan and it's
like the back of a watch, right? It's like you take off the back of a watch.
What money can buy, yeah. It's
like beautifully intricate, but like polished and engineered in like this really Swiss traditional like luxury watchmaking way, where it's like there's stills in Highland Park, there's stills in Macallan, there's this in Highland Park, there's this in Macallan, but when you go to Macallan, it's like it's been redesigned to be like inside a watch. You can walk around.
It's like, again, if you keep the watches as an example, you've got, you know, the brand new Apple high tech does everything watch that you can wear on your wrist, yet you might choose to still fall in love with the old Patek Philippe or the IWC. That you can see those things work within. So you know, both tell the time, essentially.
Right.
Or it's like driving an old car versus a modern car. One might give you all the mod ones you need, and the other one you might know that your granddad once drove to school. Like,
yes.
One gives you the romantic connection. The other one gives you the efficiency of modern technology, I guess.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Thank you. Pastor, I think we're talking about things we should go to mommy, okay?
Hi.
Could you go find mommy?
No, thanks.
All
Alistair.
Life and home. But yeah, that's exactly it. I think, you know, like, and whiskey is also subjective as well. You know, we all like different things, obviously, right? And you almost can't put your finger on it with the Macallan, because it's so like, and it's like that picture that we saw before. I mean, that's just a photo from my phone, and it's like the precision of it and the design and architecture and specificity of it is immaculate and beautiful and wonderful. And when you go to Highland Park, it's like, this is like you know that it's Highland Park. Like, the both of them make sense for who they are, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, you walk in, you're immersed right away. And we had this wonderful guy called James, who was our tour guide. He was brilliant. What a cool guy.
Again, it's somebody that, you know, he'd grown up working there. So it was the whole thing of you walking inside this family home. It was the farmhouse still, in some sort of way. Like, you were walking into the farmhouse that was once there.
Yeah. And I don't have pictures of it. I'm sorry, I don't. The first thing that we did was, like, we took this tour. Like, this is not some fancy special, like, out of reach tour. This is the official tour of the distillery, right? So we weren't like some special treatments because I work for the company kind of situation. This is literally, you know, the tour. So I'm going to click onto the next screen, and, like, you know, we went through this first little part, watched the video, but then we brought straight out. So I don't know, Lyle, would you be able to talk us through, like, just like what you can remember of the maltings for a second? I'm going to relocate a toddler from behind me.
Fair enough. So this is like it is the malting floors of Highland Park here. The guys come in and it's all been steamed already, and they lay all the barley out on the floor. So that's to start the germination of the malt for the growth. They are still, like, turning all the malt by hand at the moment. Predominantly of the time, they're turning everything by hand with these little shovels that you can see on the left-hand side here.
I've got to pause and say, Lyle, walking in right then, you're talking about germinating malt, doing our butcher and barrel thing. I'm like, hey, we just did this the other day. You know exactly what this is. This is
amazing. Sorry. But yeah. So we just saw these kind of barley oats laid out on the floor. And what was cool, like, is you can see the windows open here, and that's their, like, aeration of the malts, isn't it? Like, that's the historic thing of it. They don't have any way of controlling the humidity. That's exactly how they do it. So.
And, you know,
there's no thermometer and temperature gauge that, you know, checks the air and everything. That's, you know, whereas, again, if we go to the other end of the spectrum down south on the other mainland.
Yeah. And I think that's it, is that normally what's going to happen is, you're going to buy this in. Most people just buy this en masse. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's way more controlled, you know, if you're buying it from people that explicitly do this. But the higher technology here is just a thermometer at different spots down the room. When it gets too warm,
it in, right, along the whole alleyway. Yeah, that's
right. And, you know, when it gets too warm, you turn it, which is every 8 hours. It takes like 5 to 7 days to do. And if it gets too hot in the room, you open the windows. It's just, it's brilliant in its simplicity, and it's very few people still do this. You know, we only saw this room. There's 4 more, but it's just. Yeah, it's
the
really
only disappointing thing actually about the tour, in my opinion, is that they don't let you lie down on the malt, because it does look so comfortable.
Make little malt angels, make little barley angels.
Yeah. It does look amazing when you see them go around and they're turning it all, and it's all leveled out. It's so pleasing to the eye. It's just something, as a, you know, the 4-year-old inside me just wants to run through the middle of.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's exactly it. The shields there, that's the maltster's shovel, you know, flipping things over. And then we kind of like walk straight out to this, and you're like, okay, right, let's go. You know, left side is Coke, right hand side is peat. And, you know, it's remarkable because eventually the thing on the right, if it was a few thousand years older and then refined, could become the thing on the left. Can you remember what the deal is? We might have covered this recently, Lyle. We might not have done. Can you remember what the deal is with Coke? Why we use Coke?
No, I feel like I've missed my homework here. Is it because
No,
of
I can't
or
remember if we covered this. I can't remember if we covered this in Butcher and Barrel recently or not. Aaron, can you remember what Coke is or what Coke's used for? I do know what it is. I'm curious because I remember hearing about Coke like in oil refineries or maybe like smelting metal or things in the past. But like I only recently, like 100%, I only recently relearned what it is.
I'm gonna say I missed that episode.
Fill us in, James. Come on.
Okay, so sorry, just sending this stuff.
You just Googling
so, yeah, no. I'm just sending you both messages. So on the so
I would have
Coke
liked
is
it if you
basically
had sent me the answer to that question before you started.
So Coke is basically like a refined form of coal, right? It's basically when we take out all of the impurities and things like that. And so, much like the message I sent, that's, we really want to keep things clean because that way we're not going to introduce other flavors into our whiskey that we don't want to. The peat on the right-hand side is this really slow, smoldering thing, right? And like, as we learned, it's on a pallet crate with tissues. And like, this is how we get it going with bits of newspaper to light the fires. We record when the swallows come back, they obviously came back.
Oh, that's such a nice touch, that though. Like when they go, oh, the swallows are back this year. Like,
yeah. And looking at this, I'm like, wait a minute, they came back in December. I'm so used to looking at American dates these days. No, not December. January, February, March, April, May. Okay, they just come back. Yeah. So we're using peat. It's coming from that one place that we cycle past, Hobbister Moor. It's a super archaic fuel source, a real like socioeconomic important fuel source. UK historically, the Norfolk Broads are big and flat because of peat harvesting. That's why the landscape like that. That is a man-made landscape. It is not like this miraculous plains. It's like an actual, like, we did that to the land. We use this to dry that malt that we've been making, and there's a little one up there living in the distillery. And it's really to get us to this stage. And they weren't peating. This is a lie. No, this isn't a lie. This is true. This is a cheat. They weren't peating the day that we were there. So I took this picture from somewhere else, but this is what happens with it, right? We light those fires. We get that smoke in. The reason Highland Park tastes and smells the way that it does is only like this barley here in a bottle of Highland Park is only making up 20% of the mix going in. The rest of it has no peat, which is why like the peat in Highland Park is so integrated beyond just the unique peat source with no trees, and it's heather rich and like life and aromatic. But I do remember that the room prior with the kilns was just like, it felt like very primal and archaic, right? It just felt very, yeah. Did we walk, because we walked up steps, did we walk through a malting floor did we walk through this just without, I can't remember that, I have no pictures.
We did walk, because we had to go up the steps, which then takes you into the stills room.
Right.
But going back to the kiln room that you were walking through, all of the separated peats that were on the floor, all of the different densities that were there. Right. Like it was just that care and attention that had gone into not just chucking it in. It was all separated out, and you pick it up and it would feel so different as well. Some of it would be rock hard, like completely solid. I
remember the tour guide, James, he had his own examples, didn't he? And he hid them in like a corner because he said that someone kept on burning it, like picking up his bits of.
And he'd have to go through and find them again.
yeah. So he always had his own example of like because the youngest is going to be the lightest, most crumbly, less compressed. The oldest one's like, I mean, it sounds like it's a rock. I mean, it just you could do some damage with that. Really something. And this also is a lie. We didn't look at this. We have the same one at Highland Park. This is the same Porteous mill at the Glen Rothes, and this is what we mill it in. Just so you guys know, actually, these guys went out of business because they made things too well. They never break, so they went out of business.
Oh,
There's
no.
a finite amount of finite amount of distilleries in Scotland, and they don't need
That's
new
so
rules.
gutting, but fair play to them. Like, they made the thing right. Like,
Old Northern, because I'm the Northerner here. Old Northern Engineering from Leeds didn't break down. They've never had to, it stinks, but it's kind of nice, So yeah, those old Porteous mills, you'll find them in a lot of distilleries. And then here we are.
Yeah, look. Oh, I love it. Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at that old and new together. Look at that.
Yeah. Well, and so this is, I think what we're looking at here at the front right is the mash tun. So this is the mash tun here, which is where we're obviously, which is where we're, aging everything. I don't know, which is where we're mashing everything.
Aging it in those things behind me,
yeah. We've got 2 kilns, and it's all filled funneling. It's like, this is the bottleneck, right? We've got all this malt, we've got to bottleneck it through the kilns, and we've got to re-bottleneck it through this. But yeah, this is the mash tun at the front, and they're the washbacks at the back. And we'll look, we got a real nice candid look into somebody trying to fix one of the washbacks, didn't we? Which we'll get to.
Completely. Yeah. They were like, well, we'll patch it together, and that's what we did.
We'll patch it together. That's not how it was said, but that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
The smells in that room as well. The smell was the most potent thing of that room. Walking from the smell of the peat, which was, just so nice to take that inhale, and then walking into this room was quite a shocking difference.
Yeah. And, on the right is really in there deep. So that's the mash tun. It's called a semi-loater, which basically means that it's keeping things kind of moving by itself, if you like. And then I think that on the left is actually some wort. So that's, we've taken the grains. Lyle did a phenomenal job as a butcher, talking about converting to, sugars through germination so that we can extract them to make incredible. I'm
going to ask you to explain the aging process of beef next week, so be careful.
No. We start distilling, we start fermenting, right? No, right. So this part here, this isn't fermenting even on the right or on the left. This is basically just adding water to those grains to get the sugar out, right? And then we've got this sugary mess called the wort. Gets taken from this mash tun into this thing in the back. It's called an underback, but we'll skip past. And then it goes into these, which are the washbacks. And this, and you guys might not, I might have said this at the time, but you guys might not know this. This actually on the side, most distilleries, these are metal, right? Most distilleries, these are metal. And I remember them telling us that some of these are Siberian larch as well as Nordic pine. Some of them are Siberian larch, which is the same wood that Leif Erikson would have used to make the ships to come across to North America, which is really cool as well.
Yeah.
But this is where the yeast is added, and then we're fermenting. And did we get? I think we got to drink some of the beer, right? Some of the cloudy beer.
Yeah, we got to drink it, and always But like Aaron said, the smell of it as well, whilst it's going around, it's like nearly knocks you on your back. Like the gas that's released from it is just.
Yeah, it's all CO2.
No deep inhale. They actually tell you not to take that deep inhale. I mean, that alcohol's going straight to the brain.
It's the CO. You know what it is? It's the CO2. It's that you're breathing in, but you're not taking a breath.
You're starving yourself of a breath. Yeah.
I remember James being like, so James, this wonderful tour guide that we have, he wouldn't mind saying he was a more elderly gentleman. But he'd referenced how like the beer made is like between 6 and 8%, depending on where it is in the ferment. And it's like how strong that is. And we're thinking like, well, these days it's not actually so bad, 6-8%. I mean, it's still strong, but it's not.
Yeah.
Compared to back in the day when we used to make beer at 3.2, yes, it's very strong. But nowadays, like it's not unheard of. But of course, it's very different.
Double IPAs now, which are like 8-9%. So yeah.
Right. And these we have a number of these wooden washbacks, and it takes I think each one lasts about 30 years, they say. And so we're basically constantly checking them, and we had the fortune of being shown into one that had basically just been filled in with a pile of water and sawdust. I think the purpose was to not leave it, was to see where the sawdust went so that we could fix where the leak was.
Yeah.
so that as it went down, it will patch around, and then we can actually fix that part of the structure and address it. But it's a lot of work, and you know, I remember them saying that people that use stainless steel will be like, oh, it doesn't make any difference, don't worry about it. But obviously for us, we're like, well, yeah, it does. And the microbial properties of wood actually do change the way in which things ferment. It is a truth. How much that translates over is a question, but it does make a difference. Yeah, this was a cool room.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the footballs.
Yeah.
Going back to the difference between the metal and the wood, and you know, just you talking through the process of how they then fix the wood with the sawdust that's chucked in, and again going back to some of those analogies of new and old. Some pastas handmade, some pastas made, you know, running through a machine. It's yes, we may not know the difference, but again, we just get drawn into that, you know, that's what the brand is. That's the you know.
And you know, we used to talk about this. We and all the time in dance, right? The lower on your body the injury is, the greater the repercussions are. In the sense of, like, you know, you have an issue with your ankle, well, the ankle affects the knee affects the hip affects the spine affects the neck, and then you've got a headache. You know, with this, you know, so much emphasis gets put upon the casks that we age in because it's so important, and it introduces huge amounts of the flavor of our final liquid. But you know, deciding not to change these things, like to move away from our history and heritage, one is a choice, right? That is a choice. If we're going to stop hand turning our malt, which is back-breaking work, that's a choice. Two, the earlier in the process, it makes differences that we can still probably tweak different parts of the process. But if we change the way we age in a wooden washback, we probably are going to have to change things at the still level, or change things at the aging level to compensate for changes we've introduced, right? I mean, it's a thing, I guess. Yeah, and then the football, soccer ball, football is really to clean out pipes.
I remember walking around going, "Do you guys play football in the meantime?" Things, and they were like, "No, there's an actual reason why we have these footballs."
Yeah.
Go on, explain why they have the footballs there.
Well, it's, I mean,
not great at football.
It's to practice playing bar in their spare time. It's so that we can be the best bar players we can be.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's, you know, we've got a lot of sugary liquid, we've got a lot of chaff, we've got a lot of, like, basically these leftover bits in pipes that if you leave them, like, you know, there is still gluten and things like that you're going to get in barley. We've already converted sugars. Like, if we just made whiskey out of barley straight up, it gets super gluey, it gets pretty nasty. And we've already converted sugars, but it's still, obviously, there's gluten in there, there's other things. When you're cooking it, when you're sending it through pipes, you're going to effectively end up slowly building up cement of gluten. Like my friend Steve, when we were in Laban and he was at Central St. Martin's doing design, I remember going to his apartment one day, and he had this bowl, and I was like, "What's this made out of?" He was like, "Oh, it's made out of porridge." And I was like, "What?" And he had basically, like, made porridge, pressed it into a bowl, waited for it to dry, microwaved it some more, and then pulled it out because the gluten is strong enough to make a bowl. You know, same thing eventually coming through the pipes. Yeah, I know. But same thing eventually coming through the pipes. You know, it builds up. So it's basically cleaning the teeth of the distillery with a soccer ball, which is, you know, wonderful. And then this is the only picture I got because they wouldn't let us take more, which is understandable.
Yeah.
The stills. You know, 1962 was that last date on the front of the building. That's when we expanded from 2 to 4 stills. So when this still house would have been built in that sense, they were replicas for the most part of the stills that had come prior. But, you know, a super important part, obviously, of our whiskey making process, but one that we couldn't get as close to. I think when we went to Glenrothes, they weren't distilling at the time, so we could get pretty close in there. Actually, no, they were distilling, right?
Yeah, they were. Yeah,
They were, yeah. There was a lot more space. We could, yeah. We weren't trying to take pictures though, and it was just the four of it, the three of us.
that's what I'm saying.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you,
yeah.
Glen Rothers. That was very nice of you. Unfortunately, just let everybody know there is no office to centre at Glen Rothers. You can't really just go there. If you're desperate, reach out to me at Whiskey Darcy No E. I'll do what I can do, but you know, yeah. And at the moment, you can't period because of the coronavirus. But you know, it's just these four stills. These are the four kettles making every drop of Highland Park in the world. These four kettles.
Boom.
They made this liquid.
Yeah.
One of these four, or all four, made this liquid. You can't really see in the picture. Maybe you can. I think I could get this wrong. Which ones look bigger? The ones in the back or the ones in the front? The ones in the back to me looks a little bit bigger.
Yeah,
I think
that's
the
what
ones
I
on the
would
back because they've got a white,
Yeah.
they've got a fatter neck, haven't they? Like
Yeah, like the cone coming up is a little bit fatter. It doesn't come in and then come out. It just goes out right away.
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying this the right way around. Which, if the ones in the back are bigger, they are the wash stills. They're the first stills. They work in pairs, right? So those two at the back are the same size. They're a bit bigger. The two in the foreground are a little bit smaller. These ones are the spirit stills. You can see the line arm on them. This thing at the top here is pretty equal. And it's almost like a 90-degree angle, right? So we put in beer, the wort. We turn it on. Alcohol escapes up. If it doesn't make it to the top, it hits the side, hits the copper, cools, falls back down. Then it tries again. If it doesn't make it, it falls back down. Can you see my mouse as I'm doing this?
Yeah.
Okay, this is nice. If it makes it up, oh, it might make it, but it didn't make it over the edge, so it drops here and it falls back down. This is called reflux. The reflux and the amount of reflux that you have actually helps to strip away a lot of the compounds that we don't want, some of those sulfuric elements. Copper is really reactive, it's really conductive, and it's really malleable. So you can shape it to be exactly what you want, which is great. It's conductive, it transfers heat really well, and it's reactive, and it acts as a catalyst effectively to get rid of things we don't want. So the more reflux we have, we're kind of happy with. It makes a bit of a lighter spirit, but eventually it makes it over the top, comes down into one of these, condensers, we collect it, and then what does it do? It goes into this one. So it starts in this one at the back. I should have been doing this. Condensers, and then it comes up this one. And then at that point, we've got our spirit. And again, you know, we're distilling and then filling to around about 69.8%, which is when we head down here. And I don't have pictures of this next part. What can you remember what this, maybe you want to describe kind of like this part here, or what we talked about and then what we did. Anyone remember?
I'm trying to have a look for some photos actually.
Because this is where we came in to kind of go into we didn't taste down here, but we certainly started talking about, we didn't know that we were going to be tasting this, but we went down here and they started telling us about a certain cask.
This one.
Oh, is that the one? That's the one.
That's the one there.
That's the one.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh.
So yeah, we came down here and we saw obviously all the barrels in situ and learned a little bit about barreling and things like that. Yeah, and he pulled this one to one side, didn't he? The 1968, and was like, "This is a really special cast of ours that we found."
Right, and like on the tours, on the tours, like they used to taste it straight from the cask, but it had hit like 40.2% or something, right? Or 40.1, and when it hits lower than 40, it's no longer Scotch. So they had to stop doing that and they had to bottle it because the angel share, right, which is the liquid lost, you know, Kentucky, this can be like 8%, Scotland, maybe further south, 3%, maybe 4% if it was particularly hot. But Scotland, like I was listening to one thing about single casks, sometimes like there's one single cask that I heard Martin, who's our global brand ambassador, talk about. Over 10 years, it only lost 3%, which is a crazy low amount to lose. So it was like still like, I think it was like 65% ABV as a 10-year, which was nuts. But yeah, this one had like over the years, you know, they've been tasting it, it's getting smaller, more surface area, it's losing more. So we're like, oh, okay. So I guess thanks for telling us about this great cask. We did get to smell it. Like when we were in that room, we got to smell it. we were like, oh, okay, well,
Thanks.
thanks. And then, I have been to Jack Daniels. I've been to a few other like more modern distilleries. Aging does not normally happen like this anymore. It's normally stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of racking. Like this is more of like a dunnage warehouse, where it's this low to the ground. A lot of our warehouses offer this still, and then we do still have some warehouses, and not all of them are even on Orkney because we don't have enough space to continue some as well. Like this is post like down in the production though, like not for the main aging portion on another island. But yeah, this is where the magic happens, right? This is where all the aging process happens.
Yeah, look at that.
That's 1998. You can see down here, TEV. This is coming from the Tabasa, which is one of our cooperages in Spain, in Jerez. So this is coming from the Tabasa cooperage, but just casks waiting to do what they do. It was American oak sherry cask, right, that we were smelling from 1968.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we weren't allowed to go down all those alleyways, were we?
No, that was behind a. Yeah, we weren't allowed to walk down there.
No, we went on that day. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of control around it as well. There's a lot of laws around, what access you do and don't have to casks and things like that. And every time that we sample a cask, there have to be paperwork filled out because we have to pay tax on those things as well to the excise man still today. Ironically, of course, location Highland Park. It's not in the Highlands. It was at a location originally called High Park. That's because the founder, Magnus Jonsson, working out of effectively his cottage with an illegal still, was trying to avoid taxmen, right? There's a good, the site's kind of elevated. You can see your customers in town. You can see the boats coming from the shore. So, oh, a boat's coming, pack it down. Oh, my customers are here, pack it up, pack it out, kind of thing. And then, of course, we got to taste.
Yeah.
James was funny with this, wasn't he? Because we tasted this first, right?
Yeah.
And of course, this was the 1968. I remember feeling cocky because we smelled it and tasted it first. I was like, "Well, I think this is Highland Park Light. It's kind of pale in color." And blah, blah, blah. And like I felt cocky about it, and it's like, nope, how wrong I was. Humble pie.
Yeah.
Just elegant, beautiful, mind-blowing, wonderful, seductive. And then he took us through this tasting. I'm going to skip past this just because it was a lot of fun, but we should all get together and do tastings when it's safe to do it.
Exactly, yeah.
The fun is doing it. There's a limit to how enjoyable it's going to be unless you're doing it at the same time. So we'll move past to our lunch.
Oh, wow.
Afterwards. So that's a bit extreme. So let's hold back. Any thoughts that you remember or that you think about when we were visiting the distillery?
I think one thing that just came up when you were talking through that, it was the first time I'd ever heard of the saying "the angels share." Oh yeah, yeah. Which is quite I'd never heard that saying. I don't know even if it is a saying, but sort of the way that and you've just talked about it. I remember him saying it now, and it's quite what a really nice way of talking about, evaporation and how much disappears and all those sorts of things. I'd never heard it before as a saying.
And, the funny thing is that James said at the time, like, oh, the angel share, it's we've got some happy angels in Highland Park. But I'm always thinking like, no, we don't have happy angels compared to other places because, again, Highland Park's angel share is like 1% a year. If you go to the Caribbean, you can be losing like huge amounts every year because it's so hot. Typically the hotter it is. And then I think Lyle and I might have touched upon this in one of our Butcher and Barrels things, is that if you're in a high humidity place, you're more likely to lose alcohol, right, through osmosis effectively. If you're in a low humidity dry place, you're more likely to lose water and keep alcohol. So in Kentucky, where you can have, or in certain arid areas, when you're aging your whiskey, you can actually end up going up in strength versus down. But in somewhere like Highland Park, it's pretty wet, it's pretty everything else. You're losing alcohol, you're going down in strength quicker. But in the Caribbean, it loses almost at an equal rate. So you can put it into barrel at 50 and possibly pull it at 50 5 years later and have lost a lot, but you're still at 50, which is, it is what it is.
It's one of the things that I think when we went through when you drive through Speyside, a lot of the distilleries talk about how they all feel they're in the most ideal place in the world to make whiskey because of the rivers, and they all claim they've got the best spot.
Yeah.
Which is actually something that Highland Park or James was quite honest about. It was, they're there for the peat up on Orkney.
One thing, yeah.
They're quite honest in the sense that we're not in the most idyllic spot in the world. The amount they have to work to keep the humidity right within the malting floors and all of those things. It's just something quite nice about the fact that actually we work to make this. Like and
that's the caveat, right? It's like,
not just making nice whiskey because we're in the perfect place. It's
it's
something we work to make.
We are in the perfect place to make Highland Park.
Yeah.
Right, which is the caveat, right? It's like okay, well, we are for Highland Park. And another thing that actually,
because we want what the island has to offer, from a different aspect,
And a big part of that actually is the a big thing that people will talk about in Speyside is soft water, limestone filtration. Highland Park has hard water, like a heavy mineral content, and that plays a part in your whiskey making process. Just because everyone else really likes their soft water doesn't mean that there's lots of benefits to working with hard water with the right mineral content, but it's different. Some people have it, most people don't. Highland Park does have it. So you're right. Like, we have cool maturation. A cool thing about it actually is because we have cool maturation, we actually cask fill higher. Pretty much everyone in the industry for the most part puts in at 63% as like a sweet spot. We actually fill at 69.8. If it was any higher, it would have to be like legally classified as like a dangerous good, right? Like if we filled it any higher, which is another reason why I think we're not allowed to go back to the casks, because some of those young casks are breathing out 70% alcohol, ethanol into the air. Like, you be careful,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it is different by nature compared to somewhere else. Yeah. But so that was the distillery. We did have the opportunity to, and so this, full disclosure as well, this was right before, Aaron, you were getting married later on in the summer. Wonderful wedding to your wonderful wife. I knew that I would not be able to be there for the stag do because I live out in the US and I wouldn't be able to be out there for that much time. And so like this for me felt like the one opportunity that I'd have to be with you before, this. And so we did have the opportunity to get a single cask that you can only buy at the distillery as well. One thing I learned recently actually is that a lot of the way in which that works is that it's actually our global brand ambassador, Martin Markvartson, was pushing for this a number of years ago and basically basically encouraged like our global brand manager, if you like, into doing it, because we released some single casks to the Nordics and they sold out, I think, in 3.8 seconds. Like we picked a few and they were like, gone. To basically say, I think we should do this again. And when you do have the single casks, the crazy thing about Highland Park is just how good it can taste before you do anything to it. Before you bring casks together and cask harmonize them and make sure that they integrate to become 12 or 18 years just by themselves. They're so ferociously balanced because of that peat, and we only use 20%. And it's just, I don't know what it is. It's the cool maturation. It's the cask harmonization. It's something, but it's perfect. Like, it's just a perfect little scotch in of itself,
I'm intrigued. Have you guys opened yours yet?
No.
Where is mine? I haven't even got mine out of the bag since I bought it, I don't think. No,
I don't think I've taken it out of the bag yet either. It's still in the cupboard.
I don't have mine here, so we can't drink it yet because we've got to have them together.
Well, exactly,
but like, can you let us know what it is? Can you say what it says on the front, like just the age of it, the strength of it,
so 15 years old, first fill American sherry oak barrel, cask number 1938, limited to 572 bottles. It's a 60.3.
So 60.3, right? So there's a good example, right? It's 60.3. It's 15 years old. 1% angel share. Well, actually, no, it doesn't work. The math doesn't work as simply as I thought it would. So I'm not going to go down that road. I was about to be like, oh, well, after 15 years, take off 50. It's like, no, James, it wasn't 100% alcohol, so it's not going to work that way. I'm going to stop with that.
I know, yeah. It looks nice. But I don't know when we're going to open it. Like, so.
Well, maybe it's, I suppose there's two options. Either the coronavirus pandemic is taking too long, we don't think we're going to get together soon enough, so we all open our respective ones at the same time and have it together.
Yeah.
Or, I'll travel with mine, or if you guys are both able to be out of the States at the same time, I'll open mine and we can have that. We'll find a way. We'll do it together, whether it's digital or not.
Yeah, but it's nice as well because, like, when we bought this bottle, we all got to sign that big book as well, right? So
that's right. We're in that like register, aren't we?
It's not that. I was number 481 that signed the book there. Like, I took a photo of it because I'm that vain, but yeah. So I was number 481. So yeah, it's cool. It's a nice little memento that you can buy on the end of the tour. It's lovely. Like, you can take a bit of Orkney away with you that no one else can from Highland Park.
Yeah, exactly.
It's where I drop it on the kitchen floor and smash it into a smithy.
We'll just watch it disappear to lick the floor.
Yeah, exactly right.
A little bit of it.
Pardon me, guys. I'll be right back. I'm just going to the floor to do this. And so, yeah, after this, I'm going to share my other screen now, so you can see apparently I've got Disney Plus loaded on my thing in the background. But this came up, and I do have photos of this on the way back. The great thing, if you get the ferry, this doesn't happen if you take the plane. If you take the ferry, you have to get on a coach that takes you to and from wherever you're going in the islands. And we went to Kirkwall, which is kind of like the capital. It makes stops, and you have to be on the stops. And so we got to go to the Italian chapel, right?
Yeah.
It's, look at this. It's a metal shed, right? It's a metal shed, but these Italian prisoners of war built this facade on the front, and then inside basically did a series of frescoes. It's not bricks in the inside. This is all painting.
Yeah, look at that. That's stunning.
It's painting. It's a metal shed.
Yeah, a Nissan hut, like where you use for store stuff in. Like, it's
right. Yeah. Just what a unique little place in the world. There you are. There's Aaron. I'm not sure if I took a picture of it. I hope I did. I mean, yeah, like these frescoes. I mean, it looks like maybe now that I've said it, you would notice, but I mean, it's not brick.
No, you can't notice that. Like,
was that tile or was that paint?
That's painting. It's all like painting.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Not tile. That's crazy. Yeah. Let me see if I've got a picture of it. There it is. So, I think the two of you could remember this better than I could. I don't know if one of you or both of you are able to take us through what it was.
Aaron, do you want to go? Or?
No, you go for it. You told it well earlier.
We haven't pre-recorded this.
So this is the only thing we actually did talk about before we started this was the heart on the floor. That was the first thing that all three of us talked about, actually.
So obviously, as James just explained, this was a prison of war. This is where they made their own kind of chapel. One of the POWs fell in love with a local lady. He was already married and had a family back in Italy. I can't remember what region of Italy he was from, but he fell in love here, and it was all forbidden. And he said to her, "I will leave my heart here for you." Not in a literal sense, but obviously he created this heart sculpture.
Well, as a butcher, if you think that's a literal heart, we have real issues in this.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that's where this little heart came from. He said, "I will meet you here, and I will leave my heart for you, and I'll come back for you at one point."
So the heart's situated underneath the gate at the end of the aisle, just before you get to
the altar. Yeah,
it's the altar. So he left it. It's in the middle where the gates meet.
That's right. That's right.
Let me see. It's the thing that actually stops the gates.
It's that there, right?
Open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And I think the story goes that they had always planned to meet at the gate
Mm.
at a certain time.
Alas, this Italian did already have a family. Like, it wasn't a lie, as I understand it. It seemed like he was good love and everything else. Probably wasn't the love of his life, but alas, this Italian was already married back in Italy, which is a little bit troublesome and complicated. But what a what a brilliant little. Oh,
Oh,
it looks like you've taken something from the place, but I know you
yeah,
have.
that's not the heart. That's I promise you.
There you are. That's exactly what you were talking about, Aaron. That beautiful,
Yeah,
like,
the drive.
it's just, and you like no trees, beautiful aqua, just wonderful ocean. Just I just want to be there. Oh, and that reminds me, you can see the this in the back as well. Orkney actually generates more energy than it uses through wind. Like Orkney.
Yeah. Wow.
That's great.
Self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Whiskey and energy. What more do people need?
Yeah. No kidding. And yeah, just like I'll keep scrolling through these just because you've got these like random shipwrecks, like old fishing carts. Oh, actually no, right. These are the old molds. Right, you can see these blocks here in the foreground. Those are the old concrete molds in the background. They're just still there.
Yeah.
A lot of this were like defenses during the war periods, and then of course, if this is as bad as our ferry journey was, we were pretty fortunate because a lot of people talk about how treacherous that ferry journey is.
Well, it's like one of the most powerful stretches of the ocean. I think there is in the world.
I mean, I think it is. It's two oceans. Oh, and then he smiles. Because it is like the joining point of those two oceans. I think it just causes a lot of different currents. Is this Inverness? No, this isn't Inverness.
No, this is one of the towns we stopped in on the way back down.
Right.
This is when we camped.
Yeah,
we came back home.
It was a little more sheep, Scotland, of course.
But you eventually got your fish and chips.
Yeah. Oh, there we are. Hello, the ragtag bunch. Hey, look, is that the same hat?
No.
Yeah. That's the same hat you're wearing now.
Where did I lost that buff. I never found it. Do you remember we got to the place afterwards? I never found that afterwards.
Oh.
Yeah. Hang on. Happy little Lyle and a crab. It's not loving this time, but just going crabbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just it was just and then we spent some time on the beach.
My rock, which you made me carry all the way back home.
We did go.
I had to pay for cabin luggage for that thing. Jesus Christ.
I've actually got that rock in my hallway right now.
And
it's a lucky stone. It's got a hole in it.
Oh. And we're not. It's going to sound like it. We're not brand bashing. We did go to Glenmorangie on the way back, and we're thoroughly disappointed. But I think that might have been just because the way in which the tour was delivered to us felt kind of like, I don't know. I think we love James, our tour guide, and we wanted to see like.
It's not. Yeah. It wasn't the same tour as what we got in Highland Park. If I'm completely honest, with you. It's not. It's very far apart. If you want to go and see an actual working distillery, go make the further trip and go to Highland Park and see it.
And get the benefits of being in Orkney at the same time, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's just a very it's a very different setup. It's almost it would be like it's almost like going to the, dare I say it, the Disneyland of
right.
Right. You walk in and you've got the orange Cadillac that's outside, and
right, and
everything is very built for grandeur, and it's just a very different place.
We love all whiskey makers. Obviously, we're talking about Highland Park today. If Glenmorangie is your jam, that's awesome. There's whiskey for everybody. We're here talking about Highland Park. That's why we're being like this. We'll move on. We're not going to spend our time talking about those guys because they make great whiskey. That's cool. Just this is what we're about. I think this is probably about the point of the trip when Aaron's realizing, oh no, the trip's nearly over. This is the end. This is nearly the end of my road. There's you with your rock again, walking across the rocks, Lyle crabbing again, and then I think that's the end of what I'm going to take us to here. And then after that, we got back down to Inverness. We hung out a little bit, and then we all I got on a plane back down to Manchester. You got on a plane back down to London, and I got back to my dad's, and he had this crazy bottle of like 1970s Highland Park, which I was like, and couldn't believe because I'd never seen before. And so I was having happy days when I got back.
Nice.
Yeah.
I landed at London. I think we landed in London at 9:30 in the morning. I went straight to work.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
you did. Yeah. I'm sure the next day you were probably back in the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that was it. That was our kind of down and dirty personal tour of Highland Park and the camping trip that you guys never went on, if you're watching in.
Yeah.
I
But
enjoyed